Do we think the spread matters here? Because that's been another trend in the NBA. If you win a game, you're probably covering. Going into last night's game, the winners of the NBA playoff games had gone a 16 went 16-0 against the spread. So the spread did not matter in any of those 16 games. So you're just picking a winner here. So at 4.5, do you think the spread matters?
I don't think it does. I don't think it's 18-1 for the love of God. So if you think a team is going to win, don't worry about the spread. They're going to cover. So yeah, if you think Boston's going to win, lay the 5.5. The Clippers last night were the first team to lose and cover. And of course that line jumped when Kawhi Leonard was ruled out of that game late. So maybe that's a bit of an anomaly there. But yeah, I'm going to lay it with Boston.
Oh, sorry. It's Friday, and I am still waking up, apparently. Like, what am I supposed to do with the yawn? Like, you can't stifle it. Have you ever yawned at, like, an inopportune time, like at a funeral or something, where you're just like,
as I'm talking, I'm like, Chelsea, I believe, and I hear, I'm like, oh, well, that's how we've been working together for a while. You're like, I've heard this old song and dance before.
But you can't control it. Yawns are involuntary. What am I supposed to do?
Nothing. And yawns are contagious too. There's no question about that. Like, I will be yawning here very shortly. You've had that happen, right? Like, someone yawns around, you see someone yawn, and you're the same thing. There's something about it. There's something in your brain that is triggered. I was reading about that sometime.
Isn't that what the cavemen did when it was like time for bed? That one person would yawn and then the rest of them follow suit. I do think it's something like innate that's involuntary. What do we think the ceiling is for Bryce Young in his first year? Do the Panthers have the talent around him for him to come in immediately and give this Panthers a shot to win the division? Because the other thing here is the NFC South is not a murderer's row of talent, especially since Tom Brady has now left the Bucs. Do you think that Bryce Young can come in and actually have a pretty good rookie campaign if it is Bryce Young that goes first overall?
Well, that's the thing. How would you rank him in the quarterbacks that are elsewhere in that division? You got Baker Mayfield in Tampa, which we know very well about Baker Mayfield, and we know about the worst of him when it came to his time in Carolina. It was brief and uninteresting, if you could say it that way, from his time here in Carolina. New Orleans, Derek Carr. I mean, do you have a lot of faith in them in that roster? And I'm not necessarily the biggest Dennis Allen fan in terms of the head coach. I think that they've taken a significant drop off from Peyton down to Dennis Allen. So from that perspective, I think that's something where maybe Carolina put a check in their column. Atlanta's a complete unknown because I think a lot of people don't know what Desmond Ritter's upside is going to be and what the rest of their organization is going to make happen. They spent a lot of money this offseason under Terry Fontenot. So from that instinct, you maybe think Atlanta could be poised for a charge as well. But I think Carolina is right there. I think they've got a pretty good roster. They've done a lot of work in this offseason. They added Shy Tuttle on the line. They've added a couple of also pieces in the defensive secondary and also, as we mentioned, in the wide receiver position. I don't think this is a situation where you're saying he can be at a Super Bowl in the first year as an NFL player, but I do feel like the division is definitely on the table. And I also think you see enough from him and you've seen enough. He's the perfect balance of he got great experience in college, but not too much. And I think he also is just bright and primed and ready to be a National Football League quarterback. And as a result, I think he can win the Rookie of the Year. I really do.
The Wheel of Bets. That's right. You should be watching us on Twitch right now because we've got this lovely wheel that I'm about to spin. And each sliver has a different sport or a different type of bet. And whichever the wheel lands on, Jenks has to make a bet in said sport or discipline. So, Jenks, are you ready to go against the Wheel of Bets?
Yeah, what do I win? What do I win if I win my bet? Do I win something? New car? New car from Odyssey, a brand new Lexus.
No, you win a smile. A smile from me, which I may add is a pretty rare occurrence.
That's
so
true.
You'll take what you can get.
I'll take it. I'll take it and I'll like it.
All right, it's time to spin the Wheel of Bets. Let's go. Ooh, the wheel has landed on prop. So, Jenks, has to make a prop bet, which I know, Jenks, you absolutely love props, don't you? No, I don't think you've ever bet on a prop on the show. So let's go to the NBA and let's go to the Nuggets and the Timberwolves. And we're going to go with one of the main players. I'm not going to throw a curveball at you. Let's go Nikola Jokic, 23.5 points. It's minus 115. Do you think this is the game where it's a Nikola Jokic signature game and not Jamal Murray?
Yes, I do. Look, we're talking about the two-time reigning MVP, okay? He hasn't had a game yet in this series. I hate to say due theory, okay, right? Like, who wants to say that? But isn't he due for a monster game where he drops a triple-double and he goes like for 26, 11, and 10? I think he's due for one of those games, and I'm sure the Nuggets are just fine. We're seeing bubble Jamal Murray, where Jamal Murray is playing like he did before that knee injury in the bubble, where he was just unbelievable and everyone was talking about him. But I think the Joker is too good not to go over here. So let's go over 23 and a hook tonight in Minnesota. Plus, I'm on the Nuggets on the money line, so I need him to have a big game, and it all ties together.
Okay, so what happens if you lose? Like, we haven't talked about that. Like, you get a smile if you win, but what if you lose on the Wheel of Bets? Because I'll say this, when the Wheel of Bets has been on our show, we've done pretty well. I think Lucy's like 2-0 against the Wheel of Bets.
Yeah.
I can't remember what PJ picked. Maybe he lost. But we don't have any punishments. We got to think of a punishment. Like, what's a good punishment? Do we need a dunk tank on this show?
Maybe water torture, a strong flogging. Let's see. What's a good punishment? Maybe you have to eat something you normally would. Like maybe I have to eat like a malted milk ball. Oh, wait, Double D has something. Get in here, Double D.
I personally think you should have to take the donkster out for drinks.
Oh, God. Can you imagine? And what if I had to take a picture of me and the donkster at a table? Like for social media. I mean, imagine the people I would repel sitting at a table with just me and an inflatable donkey. You know what I should do? I should just lean into it, and I'll put the donkey across from me at the table, just like a two-seater, and I'll just act like I'm on a date with the donkster. If that's going to be my punishment, I got to get more than a smile from Chelsa, because that's some severe punishment.
I don't think people would look at you that crazy, because I have seen some pretty strange things out in public, especially in big cities. You live in DC. This is a big city. Do you think that weirder things happen when you have like more people to draw from? Because the things you see in like New York City on a street, like they're wild, and people don't even look at these people. They're like, yeah, it's another day in New York City.
If I did this, I'd have to go somewhere outside of the neighborhood, because I know everyone in this neighborhood. Like
you're so popular. We know.
No, but I've been in this neighborhood for 8 years. I go to the same places again and again and again. Like I'll walk down the street, say hi to the neighbors, walk into the bar, know the bar. So if I'm going to do this, I can't just be carrying the donkster around. I need to go to some place in a different part of the city and then just sit quietly in a booth and just snuggle with the donkster. Give him some of that father love, like, you're a good donkey, even though your bets suck. So if I'm going to do it, I'll just go elsewhere in the city.
No, what we need to do is we need to get you one of those dog strollers. Have you seen this where people push dogs in strollers? And I always think, oh my God, let me see the baby. It's a dog. Isn't the purpose of taking a dog for a walk is for the dog actually to walk? So maybe I'm completely off base here. I don't know.
And they're 8-1 to win the Cup, tied with the Avs behind the Bruins, who are the favorites. Can the Canes win this thing?
Well, I was at game 2, and I won't tell you whether I was wearing blue or orange or red, but it was a pretty exciting contest between the Canes and the Islanders. And I think Carolina just has this prodding style when it comes to their forecheck, and I think it's really, really a recipe for how you win in the Stanley Cup playoffs. To just not have had the high-end scoring talent before. The problem is two of the high-end scoring talents are not playing for them in this series, with Andrei Svechnikov being at least chief among them and Match Pacioretty being the other one. But they found other ways to make things happen. They get you dirty goals in the playoffs, and they had a little bit of fortune in game 2. The one goal that Sorokin gave up on the second goal was one that kind of was off of a deflection of the Islanders' Sebastian Aho, and I think also from the other perspective, the goal that they scored kind of careening around Sorokin's head is one that you don't always see often happen. So to say they've had a little bit of puck luck, I think is not unfair to say. But I also think that they really kind of have thwarted the Islanders at their own game. The Islanders play a very big forecheck as well under Lane Lambert. They like to play very boring hockey and try to stuff pucks at the net. They're not a very offensive-minded team. This is always going to be a defensive series. And I think that they kind of have the perfect antidote to what the Islanders can do. I do think Game 3 on Long Island is going to be difficult to win if you're Carolina. So if you're talking about a single game play in this one, I think you'd probably lean to the Islanders because it is their first ever playoff game at UBS Arena in Elmont. So that's a situation where you look at it and you say, okay, maybe you favor the Islanders here. But I think series-wide, I still think this is the Hurricanes series to win, and I think the first two games are evident of that.
I'll be honest. I hate nerfy-yerfy bets. Like, I hate them with the passion of 1,000 suns. To me, they're just total crapshoots. And our friend Jared Smith does it. Like, he keeps a spreadsheet and he bets it, and he's very good at it. But I think if you're going to make a bet like that, then you do have to be that meticulous in looking at numbers. I think that's the kind of bet where you definitely have to go in the weeds because you're talking about one inning. I mean, this is a baseball game, 9 full innings, and you're trying to handicap what's going to happen in a single inning. I find it just almost impossible. The only thing I ever do is if I have two great pitchers on the mound, like a couple aces, and maybe they're facing lineups that are maybe mediocre and you get a decent price, maybe I'll play a nerfy, but man, it's just not a bet I'm generally interested in.
I think you can find ways to spin logic into it and say, hey, this guy is a really good pitcher. He has really good strikeout stuff that's going to play even against the first 3 batters because you're not looking at the whole lineup. You are squarely looking at the first 3 or 4 batters in this lineup. So if you have a lineup that's really top heavy, like look at the Yankees, for example, and what we've seen from Aaron Judge and Anthony Rizzo, like that's not really a lineup that I want to say, okay, any pitcher can go against this lineup and get these guys out because they have some really good batters in those first 3 batters. So I think you look at a lineup that's not like super top heavy. You try to find a pitcher who's really good the first couple of times through the lineup because there are pitchers who pride themselves on going deep in games and they're ground ball pitchers, but they don't have like the wipeout stuff.
Bijan Robinson, and you can say, oh, you're just being a Texas fan. Any objective draft observer, any objective college football fan who has looked at the tape will tell you he is a generational talent because not only is he a hell of a running back, but he can catch passes. He can do anything. The problem is in the NFL, and this is the quandary, is that, look, you've got a guy who is absolutely special. He can do anything. The problem is running backs aren't valued like they used to be in the NFL. So the question is, do you take this guy, if you're the Eagles with they have the 10th pick, and pair him with Jalen Hurts in front of that offensive line? They could be unbelievable. But the problem is running backs don't have the value that they used to have because this is a passing league in the NFL. So Bijan is he can stop on a dime and like squat where he is right next, like his butt is on the turf and then pop back up and go in a different direction. He's unbelievable. But again, he's probably the best running back prospect, they say, since Saquon Barkley or Adrian Peterson. And with Saquon, as we know, Saquon just couldn't stay healthy, and Adrian Peterson was in a different era. So you run the risk of, hey, he's a generational talent, but do you really want to roll the dice on a running back when you can find very good running backs and not have to spend the capital there and spend it elsewhere where you really need the help? It's difficult for Bijan. He's just in the wrong era. If this were in the 80s or 90s, he'd be a top 10 pick easy.